To unlock every non-producible item in your awesome shop, you need 1,895 coupons, which is the equivalent to 125,721,388,500 awesome points. Okay, that's quite a lot. It goes without saying that coupons in Satisfactory are extremely important, whether you're purchasing logistics, foundations, or building features, or even a Cybertruck. And of course, not to mention that golden nut trophy that costs 1,000 coupons by itself. So these are the easiest ways to unlock coupons in Satisfactory. Starting with alien DNA capsules. Now, I've already made an entire dedicated video talking about this, except it's really important to highlight it again since it's a major part of today's upload. The only thing you're going to need is alien remains, and that can be anything. I've just gone for hog for this example, and 2 summer sloop, as well as a couple of these constructors and preferably some of these storage containers, which are all unlocked fairly early on in the game. Then add 1 summer sloop into this constructor, add another summer sloop into that constructor right there. Then you need to add your hog remains into your very first storage container. And essentially, normally, 1 hog remain will then form 1 alien protein, and 1 alien protein will then give you 1 alien DNA capsule. You can then sync this alien DNA capsule to get a bunch of awesome points. As we can see down here, there's 2 ways of us getting our coupons. The first standard point method is literally everything that doesn't involve alien DNA capsules. So let's start with our hog remain, and as we can see, that hog remain goes into our constructor, and that now gives us 2 alien proteins because of that summer sloop. Now our 2 alien proteins go into this constructor, where in theory we should only actually get 2 alien DNA capsules. However, because we've got the summer sloop in there, we're going to get our 2 alien DNA capsules for that, and another 2 alien DNA capsules from this alien protein. So just like that, you have quadrupled the amount of alien DNA capsules that you can now get from your alien remains. So rather than it going from a 1 to 1 to 1 to the awesome sync, it's now going from 1 to 2 to 4. So again, quadrupling all of your alien DNA capsules is a fantastic and very simple way to get a ton of coupons in Satisfactory. Now let's move over to our second step, the crash site loot. Now, if you've just started Satisfactory, then you're most likely going to find a crash site that looks very similar to this. A couple iron rods, a couple rotors, some reinforced iron plates, and maybe some screws, cable, wire, concrete, things like that, which are fantastic for trying to get machines and other early game items placed down. But when it comes to syncing, it really isn't that good. So why on earth would you ever want to try and loot a crash site, then sync everything you've just got? Well, it depends where the crash site actually is. Well, what we see right here is a map of the Satisfactory world. We've got the rocky desert up there, the northern forest, the grass fields, and the dune desert, as well as the other 20 or so biomes. And essentially, where you start off is actually rather safe, especially the grass fields down here. So if you ever do end up finding a crash site down here, like for example up there, the loot isn't going to be very good. However, if you find a crash site, let's say somewhere in the Titan Forest, the loot here is going to be so much better, or for example the swamp. And the reason for that is because these 2 biomes, as well as a couple others, are far more dangerous. For example, there's a ton more of the gas pillars, radioactive hogs, and a lot of really bad stuff that you don't necessarily want to go near, especially early game. But the crash site loot is really good, and you can get things like turbo motors, fused modular frames, which sync for a lot more than the other stuff that you find down in the grass fields or the dune desert or the northern forest, rocky desert, things like that. Here's a quick comparison. Let's say that you find some rotors and for whatever reason you don't want to turn that into an assembler or another thing to do with your starter factory. Well, how much does this thing sync for? So in total you can get 140 points from syncing the rotor, and this is the best thing that we managed to find in this crash site. But look at this for a comparison. The fused modular frame syncs for 62,840 awesome points. This is a lot of points, and honestly, it's a lot more than I thought it would be, so that's fantastic. And you can just find these dotting around your crash sites, which is fantastic. Not to mention that turbo motors is 240,496 awesome points. So again, 240,000 compared to the 100 something from before. And for me personally, adventuring is one of my favorite things to do in Satisfactory, hunting for summer sloops, murder spheres, slugs, crash sites to get those hard drives for alternate recipes. I really do love the adventure side of this game. So the fact that you can explore the game, and the game essentially rewards you from doing it because you get all of these incredible items dotted around the site itself, is amazing. So I do highly recommend that you do go exploring, that you do try and find some of these crash sites, and of course get all the loot around it. And now since we're in update 1.1, you can also actually delete these crash sites as well, where you can get a bunch more loot, but this is not as valuable, but early game, this is still incredible. Another easy way to get coupons in Satisfactory is just by going AFK. Now the reason as to why I've got a cinematic shot currently focusing on the biomass burner is because I don't necessarily recommend doing this tactic if you've still got biomass burners in your playthrough, or if you're solely relying on biomass to currently get all of your power. And there's a very simple reason for that. Biomass cannot be automatically connected. But as the name suggests, all you really have to do for the AFK tactic is just going AFK. Leave your game running in the background, you can do other in real life stuff, you can walk the dog, I don't know. Just leave your game running and everything should be okay. But again, the main reason as to why I don't necessarily recommend doing this early game, or if you heavily solely rely on biomass burners, is because you can't automatically collect things like leaves or wood, like what we can see over there in the background. Whereas again, with coal, it's far easier and far simpler to do, since you can automatically mine coal from a miner, and you can automatically collect water from a water extractor. So you can just leave your game running for hours essentially, and as long as you don't have any weird power spikes, which you shouldn't have, then this is completely fine. Whereas this, not so much, but you can still do it with the biomass burner. Just don't expect to leave your game running for 100 hours and everything's be running smoothly afterwards, because most likely it won't be. The next step is a blueprint modular factory. Essentially, all you have to try and do here is create a blueprint factory, preferably with an awesome sink inside of it, place it next to a node. The node automatically then goes into your smelters, constructors, assemblers, or whatever it is that's inside of your modular factory, then automatically that then creates an item. All you have to do is click the blueprint modular factory, connect the node, and that is it, you are done. Here's the example that I was just showing there in the cinematic shot. All I've done here is created a blueprint with an awesome sink, and 6 of these constructors, which are all making concrete from limestone. So all I've got to try and do now is just find a node that's producing limestone, then hook it up, and we are now producing concrete. I can then sink it instantly, and that's a really quick factory to get a really good amount of awesome points. And here's our node, and in just a few clicks, you are now turning your limestone into concrete. To be honest, one of these factories is not going to make a massive difference. However, if you've got 20 or even 30 of these factories dotted all around your world, producing, as I say, things like motors potentially, you can be getting a lot of points from this. So it's super simple to do when you're using nodes which otherwise you might not be using for a very long time. I would highly recommend doing this strategy if you've got a lot of power, because as you can probably imagine, placing down 20 or 30 of these things does require a decent amount of power. But as long as that's not much of a concern, then yes, this is a good idea. Final way to get a ton of very easy coupons in Satisfactory is by using SummerSloop, and this step is probably the easiest thing to do in the entirety of today's video. But why is this so important? Well, let's say you're trying to produce some ballistic warp drives. Well, for that you're going to need 4 different things. Let's say you want to try and make your singularity cells. For that, you're going to need nuclear pasta. Then for the nuclear pasta, you need pressure conversion cubes. And for that, you need fused modular frames. Then heavy modular frames. Then you're also going to need things like modular frames after that. Then reinforced iron plates. Essentially, there is a very, very long list of resources that you need to make certain items in the game. For example, everything that you see here is used to make your Fixonium fuel rods. This is about 80,000 megawatts worth of power and a good 30,000+ resources per minute. This is a lot of work. Going back to our ballistic warp drives, let's say you are currently producing 10 of these per minute, but if you were to add 4 SummerSloops, you are then producing 20 of these per minute. But because you are doubling the amount of items that you are producing here from the SummerSloop, you are not doubling the amount of ingredients you need. This still remains the exact same as what you had before. The only thing that's being doubled is your output. Your input remains the same. As we can see, ballistic warp drives give you 2,895,334 awesome points, which is a lot of awesome points for just one ballistic warp drive. Here's that number laid out on the Google calculator. So if you're making 10 of these, of course, just times this by 10. And now you've got 28,653,340 awesome points per minute for free. This works for absolutely everything in this game, except for a few items that you can't sync, but regardless of those items, this is a fantastic way of getting coupons, because all you are doing as the player is just adding in your summer sloop, and that is it. Granted, you are going to have to consume a little bit more power, but that's a very small side effect for getting millions, potentially millions, of extra awesome points. Those are the top 5 easiest ways to get coupons in Satisfactory. If you enjoyed today's video, feel free to leave a like and subscribe, but without further ado, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.